Before we begin our webinar, I would like to read the AFSA Code of Conduct. AFSA is committed to providing an environment free from discrimination and harassment. We ask all meeting participants to embrace our values of equity and equality and conduct themselves in the meeting consistent with those values. At every AFSA meeting, an officer will assign 2 designees as the first point of contact. For anyone who thinks they have experienced discriminatory, harassing, or otherwise unacceptable behavior, we urge you to contact an appointed designee. Should you have any concerns, today's designees are Florida Woods, AFSA Program Director, Nick Spina, AFSA Chief of Staff. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Doris Reed. I am the AFSA Affiliate Liaison and President of the Maryland Federation of School Administrators. I have the pleasure today of introducing our moderator, Benjamin Pryor. Benjamin is a longtime labor supporter. He is a Vice President on the AFSA Executive Board, President of the AFSA Local 109 in Prince George's County, Maryland, and an Assistant Principal at Laurel High School. Ben, turning it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doris. Good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to this evening's presentation by Kaiser Permanente entitled Resilience in School Environment, Understanding and Practice, Rise Up. Thank you all for joining. We want everyone to enter their questions in the chat throughout the presentation, and we'll be able to get to those answers later. But the big thing tonight is we have 2 experts here with us tonight. The first is Brandon Massey, is a Senior Manager, Workforce and Health with Kaiser Permanente with over 17 years of workplace wellness experience. He is a certified human resource professional and workforce wellness program manager. And next, we have Miss Rachel Wakefield. She is a certified health educational specialist and holds the Master's in Education and Master's of Science in Public Health. Before joining Kaiser Permanente, she spent 3 years teaching high school in Las Vegas. So we are ready to start, and I'm going to turn this over to Brandon.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thanks for that energy, Ben. I love the passion that you showed there, and we're very excited here to share some ideas, some concepts, and really think a little bit more about how you as leaders in educational facilities and educational environments can be not only more, I wouldn't say necessarily more effective at your job, but find more purpose in your job and find more avenues and outlets to manage your personal self-care so that you feel better and that you have more energy to really enjoy your life. So although this presentation is really about leadership, we're going to talk about several different areas that really impact you as the individual. So today we'll be covering the current climate in education. We won't be spending much time on that. I think you live it, you know it better than I do. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but we will talk a little bit about how education has seen an increase in stress and in some toxic situations. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about prioritizing self-care. And that's really the focus, honestly, of being an effective and a compassionate leader, is making sure you understand your priority in this all situations, right? You deserve to be treated well. You deserve to practice self-care. And you really can only be an effective leader if you have the energy, if you have the health, if you have the mindset, the happiness going on in your life. You can only be effective if you have those. So we'll talk a little bit about prioritizing yourselves. We're going to talk about leadership opportunities. And this isn't so much about, day-to-day leadership practices or managing people or approving absences and doing data. This is really more about how to be an effective, compassionate leader. We're going to show you some ways that you can really identify opportunities to influence people around you. And when I say leadership, I don't mean just in your current professional, what you're paid to do job. I also mean in your life. right? The people around you, your social circles, your friends, your family, your loved ones, people around you are going to gravitate towards you. And if you really think about why we work, why we do what we do, there's usually a purpose between why you decided to do what you do for your career, but also so you can have and enjoy your outside of work life. So we're going to talk about that as well, how you can bring some of these ideas and practices not only into the workplace, but also into your home, hopefully. And then we're going to give you some tools for being a compassionate leader. And today I have Rachel Wakefield, who was introduced by Ben earlier, and I'll cue her up here in a second. But she's going to go over some really great tools and resources and ideas that you can use with your teams, not only at work, but again, you also can use those in your home life and when you're doing so in your social circles outside of work. So I did mention we will talk a little bit about the current climate. And I think when in education, pretty much everyone knows that it's a more difficult time, I feel, than it probably ever has been in the educational environment. We have all the stressors that have been there forever with teaching students, with dealing with parents, with dealing with processes and rules and updates. But now I feel like we've added more into the social media, the computer, the technology, the devices, the perception of what a teacher's job is, or what an educator's job is, or what a school administrator's role is in the educational environment. So we're seeing a lot more talk. We're seeing a lot more people dealing with increased stress in their life. And it's really difficult to adapt to this new normal that we seem to have after the pandemic and the online, the virtuals, and all the different things going on in our communities. It's been difficult to adapt and adjust, and it's taking time. So we're going to talk a little bit about some ways you can take proactive steps and measures in your life to hopefully help you manage some of these stressors and some of these increased stressors that we're seeing out in these school environments. This quote here, I put this in here because it really does resonate. When you think about being a leader, when you think about being a positive person in life, it's really hard whenever you're surrounded by trauma, stress, suffering going on all around you, right? That's part of life, is what it seems to be now, but it's really almost impossible to pull yourself completely out of that if you're dealing with it every day. And I love this quote, the expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water without getting wet. You deal in stressful environments every day, and it's silly to think that it doesn't impact you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about ways that you can take, again, proactive measures, proactive steps to hopefully negate some of those stressors in your life and some of that toxic environment that may be going on around you. And this one, last slide here, and I'll get you to Rachel to talk a little bit about some self-care here in a second, is really just kind of showing how everything is pulled in together. When you think about being a leader, the most important thing of being an effective, compassionate leader is the top person there, the individual, the you. If you don't prioritize yourself, you can't expect to be there for others. If your health is not right, if your emotional well-being, your mental health, your physical health, if those things aren't right or trending in the right direction, it's unrealistic to think that you can really be there for the people around you, not only at work, but also in your home life. So when you think about how you can be a more effective leader, how you can be a better parent or a better friend or a better loved one, you really need to think about kind of the big picture, but also bring it back to the priority in yourself. Because you can't be there for your teams. You can't be there for your organization. You can't be there for other leaders that you work with if you're not there for yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about prioritizing self-care with my colleague here, Rachel, here in a second, and really focus on, again, prioritize your self-care. That is the most important step you can do to be an effective, compassionate leader, regardless of your job.
Thank you, Brandon. So now that we've had a chance to touch on that current climate in education, and like Brandon mentioned, you all are living and breathing that every day. So you know what that cycle of stress and suffering looks like for you in your work environment. So it can be easy to understand the importance of prioritizing self-care. So let's go ahead and dive into that a little more, and what that may look like for you personally and also for your teams who you work with. So I know this says chat up here in the right corner, but this is more of just a reflection question for you. So just think about for a moment, what comes to mind for you when you think of stress? How might you move forward from stressful situations and prioritize self-care? What are you already doing? Another reflection question that I like to ask is, what did you do yesterday to achieve work-life balance or to prioritize your self-care? Or what did you do last week? And hopefully people have things that come to mind. But if not, throughout this section and throughout our presentation today, I just invite you to think about things that you could start incorporating, because we all experience stress to some extent every single day. And for that reason, it's something that we all need to be able to deal with and manage in effective ways. It's really important, like Brandon just talked about, to take care of yourself first so that you can then also be an effective leader and show up for others. So stress is really defined as a state of mental, emotional, or physical strain or tension in response to demanding events in our life. And often we think of this as negative, but it's not always negative. It could also come from positive events. We have positive stressors as well. But the challenge is that when we experience too much stress, or we don't have effective ways to manage our own stress, this can really lead to a variety of health issues. It can take a toll on our bodies. It can impact how we operate in the workplace. It can impact how you show up as a leader for others. But the really good news is that there are many ways that we can deal with it and ensure that it doesn't become damaging. And one of my favorite strategies is actually to take a mindful pause. So on this next slide, I'm going to invite you to actually join me in this mindful pause. One of my favorite ways to do this, something that I actually do multiple times every single day, is breathing exercises. So breathing exercises can be a really wonderful way to just kind of calm your mind and your body, pause for a moment, kind of bring your attention and awareness to the present moment without any judgment, and just kind of take a step back and reset. So I'm going to guide you through a quick breathing exercise with me here. And again, these are breathing exercises in general are one of the quickest ways to actually activate our relaxation response and dampen our stress response. And they're so great because they can be done anytime, anywhere, and you can do them for as long as you have time for, or as little as you have time for as well. So go ahead, if you're in a safe place to do so, go ahead and get into a comfortable position right now and uncross your legs, have your feet rested gently on the floor, and you can go ahead and do a nice little shoulder roll and just allow your shoulders to drop and relax. But keep your back up nice and straight, keep your spine nice and tall here, and go ahead if it feels comfortable. You can also just close your eyes here. So I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes. I invite you to do it if it feels comfortable. You can rest your hands gently in your lap here, or hang them on the side, or you can fold them across your chest. Again, whatever feels comfortable to you. And go ahead and take one nice deep inhale through your nose, and a nice slow exhale through an open mouth. And go ahead and just bring your full awareness and focus to your breathing. So again, just calming your body, calming your mind here. Don't worry about manipulating your breath in any particular way. Just breathe and just notice the sensations in your body, or any sensations that you feel as you breathe in and out here. If you notice your mind or your thoughts wandering or drifting elsewhere, you can just simply notice that without any judgment and see if you can bring your awareness back to your breath. Go ahead and just take a few more deep breaths on your own. And then you can gently go ahead and open your eyes again. So we didn't do any special type of breathing manipulation there, though there are lots of different ways that you can do that. I'm going to come back to the mindful pauses again towards the end of our presentation when we get to our compassionate leadership tools, but just kind of wanted to give us a moment to pause before we take in the remainder of today's presentation. So thank you for joining me in that mindful pause. And on this slide here, you can see kind of some common stressors. So like I mentioned, everyone experiences stress to some extent every single day. So just reflect on your current stressors. You don't need to send those into the chat or anything. Just think about where your stress comes from. And really, stress falls on this spectrum from eustress to distress. So like I mentioned, stress can also come from positive events, and positive stress helps present opportunities for personal growth. It keeps us feeling alive, keeps us excited. So it's also important to have eustress in our life. And then distress is more of that negative stress that can have a detrimental effect on health. So you can see some examples in the images here. Common stressors in the education world, maybe staffing shortages, student trauma, school safety concerns, budgeting, coming up with policies, implementing policies, responding to parents or community member concerns, responding to teacher concerns, approving curricula, right? The list can go on and on forever. But really, it's important to identify your own sources of stress, and then also recognize also that other people you are working with also are experiencing stress. So it's so important that we learn ways to manage our stress and prioritize our mental health and practice self-care. So some benefits of practicing self-care, which we can see here on this next slide, include increased productivity and enhanced performance, improved balance. And this isn't just work-life balance, but within your work life, you need balance there. And also within your personal life, you need balance there, right? You might have family obligations, but it's also so important to take time for that personal self-care. And when we practice self-care, we also see a boost in energy, an improved mood. We're less irritable. We can respond more appropriately instead of reactively to challenging situations. And it can also help us avoid burnout. And you can probably see that a lot of these factors here on this slide are really interrelated. So if you're not experiencing burnout, then you're going to be more productive. You're going to be able to perform better. And the same is true for others. So it's also important to encourage others around you also to practice self-care. But of course, really, it's all about you and the time that you're taking for yourself. No one can practice self-care for you. So it's just really important to prioritize that. Brandon, did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, that's a great summary of why it's so important to practice self-care, that there are many, many benefits that you mentioned here. Of course, there are even more benefits to managing your stress and taking priority in yourself. And the big thing I hear a lot from educators and people that choose to be in education, school administrators, educators, anyone that works in the educational environment, is you chose to give yourself to help other people, to help bring up the next generations, to help other people in their workplace, to help other educators be better at their job. You chose to give of yourself. And the one problem from a wellness perspective, and from a person who's been doing this for a long time in wellness, is people that give so much of themselves rarely take. And I'm not taking negatively. I'm talking about they rarely take the energy, the time, the focus to bring back into themselves. So as educators working in this environment, you chose your career for a reason, which is admirable, and we love it, of course. But we also have to be realistic that you probably give out too much energy. And the only way to give out more energy and be effective at giving out energy is to create more energy in yourself. So taking care of yourself, practicing self-care is really going to help you be a better leader, a better friend, a better loved one, a better parent. It's going to help you with all these areas. So it's, even though it may feel like you're pulling yourself away to give to yourself, it's okay, because you're only going to be as effective as your body allows you, as your mind allows you. So these are great And we're going to talk some more about some other practices here in a little bit to help you and your teams. But I love this concept and making sure that we're identifying, we know that you chose this profession. We know you're a giver, a caregiver, an energy producer, but sometimes you need to take some for yourself. So now we're going to talk a little bit about compassion in leadership. As I mentioned, as educators, you chose your career because you're looking for a purpose in your career, in your path. You're looking for a purpose. You didn't choose a job that's a 9 to 5, punch in and out, build a widget or whatever type of job. You chose a career that's full of purpose, but also has a lot of stress, has a lot of variables that could increase stress in your life. As Rachel mentioned, a bunch of those in that list. And the thing with really practicing self-care and coming back to your priority sometimes is to go back to your purpose, to think about, why did I choose this career path? And then also thinking about the people that may report to you or the people that you may work with. Why did they choose this career path? It definitely wasn't the path of least resistance. I promise that. You chose it for a reason. So really getting back to your core mission, why you chose this career, who's around you, why they chose their career, can really help you find some more energy and find some more positivity in your day-to-day life. When you think about the mission of what you do, you're helping bring up the next generation. You're empowering youths, right? You're empowering people to better their lives and give themselves more opportunity in the future. That's you. That's what you're doing. I mean, your mission, your purpose is so valuable. So sometimes I think you lose sight of it. And I think educators oftentimes lose sight of their purpose. So one of the things we talk about when you think about compassion and think about being a leader is making sure you come back to your purpose, come back to your mission of why you chose this career. It's not just a vocation. It's not just what you get paid for. You can do something else and get paid for it, right? But you do it well. You chose it for a reason. So making sure you keep your purpose, understand that you feeling as passionate as you can about your career is going to make so many positive things happen in your life. And when you think about being a leader, when you think about the purpose, really making sure people around you feel accepted and valued. And that's something, again, that kind of falls to the wayside sometimes as we get in our day-to-day life, as we get further along in our career. Maybe we get a step up, or we're leading more people. Sometimes we lose sight of the human element across from you. Sometimes it becomes transactional. It's approving things. It's going, policies. It's potentially negative situations. Sometimes we deal with those as managers and leaders, but really gotta make sure we understand the human aspect across from us, and also making sure they understand that you're a human. You have your own needs. You have your own wants to be valued. You want to feel accepted. You want to feel like you belong, and so do they. So thinking about a compassionate leadership style is really more of the human element of the people around you, and of course, taking in yourself. And this is something that I think comes many times, unfortunately, in education, is that there are so many levels of crises that happen in the school environment. Of course, we're seeing things on the news every day, these horrible things that are happening in schools. We're hearing stories about school board meetings and really unusual asks and all these outlandish conversations. But that's on top of what we've always known has been, in the school environment, and dealing with kids who are dealing with trauma, or teachers, educators who are dealing with trauma that you manage, that you work with. And these people are all experiencing this, and that's going to transfer into you. And that's why it's so important that you're true to yourself so that you can be there for them. And, when you think about this quote here, like, in crisis, our best and our worst sides come out. I think we all know that's true, right? Compassion and selflessness is what really sets you apart as a leader. You don't always have control. We have it in a built-in and innate reaction to stresses or crises, the fight or flight. You hear some of those terms, and some people have different defaults of how they react to a stressful situation or a crisis. And really, as a leader, that's where you really have a lot of power to try to step back. And Rachel's going to talk about a couple of strategies for this here in a second, but really step back, pull yourself out of the situation. Think about, how can you show compassion in the moment? How can you show compassion for the teacher or your coworker, or your direct report, or your students you're dealing with, or the parents in your lives and in your schools? And it's really it's such a powerful opportunity that you have. You really can impact people's lives and really help them. And the best, quickest, easiest way really is to practice selflessness and then also in compassion. And I know we talked about prioritizing yourself, and I see the selflessness is kind of like the opposite in a sense, but it's not. It's not really. That's just a situational component. The selflessness is more about understanding, hey, things happen. How can I be there for them? I've been taking care of myself as much as I can, but also I'm still a giver. I'm still going to help those people. And choosing to come on this call today, honestly, is an amazing sign of showing that you're compassionate and you want to be a compassionate leader. So again, thank you for joining us today. We're going to go into some, we're not done yet. We're just going to some more, but I just want to remind you while you're on this call that you really chose this. You're showing up. You really do want to be compassionate and be a compassionate leader. And here's some traits. These are just really simple. We won't spend much time here, but really the traits of a compassionate leader, these all make sense. These are probably what you would think off the top of your head, really, of what would a compassionate leader look like to you. Focused on connection and collaboration, of course, bringing people into your circle, into your environment, having dialogue, it's very important. Adaptability and flexibility, huge, right? You think about what you would want for yourself, what you would want for your team. You'd want to be adaptable and flexible, self-caring and balanced. And we'll talk a little bit about some strategies for self-care and balance. We talked already about individual self-care. We'll talk a little bit about some stuff you can do for your teams. Empowering, enabling, and inclusive. Very, very important. Very important that we're making people feel heard, but also valued and also a part of the team. Transparency is a very common trait. Being open can really get you far when it comes to relationships, not only with direct reports and coworkers, but anyone in your life. Being transparent and open will open so many doors. And I love the little icon here because that's very true. As a leader, the most effective way to getting your team to value you more, to getting your coworkers to value you more, is to be transparent and open with them. Be vulnerable occasionally. Be a human. And that's really the thing. Being a human is showing compassion. Being courageous and committed, and genuine and authentic. Genuine and authentic is a very powerful thing, because if we lead or we lead with fake, or we try to show a different image that's not real to our nature, it shows and it comes through. So as a leader, if you can show your true authentic self, you will get buy-in from your team. You will get buy-in from the people around you, and it will help you become a better leader and make your job easier, because they value you more. They understand you more. They treat you more as a leader than a manager, than a person that's just there to tell them what to do or what not to do. And the benefit of being a compassionate leader is pretty much exponential, to be honest, the more effective you get at being a compassionate leader, because obviously you're going to increase connection to your coworkers, to your team. You're going to increase the connection, which is going to open dialogue. It's going to identify problems more quickly than they would if instead, because they don't feel comfortable coming to you. They're going to come to you with the problems earlier on. They're going to talk about maybe something's going on at home. Maybe they have a parent that's sick that they're taking care of, that they're driving into appointments. Maybe there's other stressors that are going on that they may not feel comfortable talking to you about unless they understand that you're a compassionate leader. It's going to help you with relational coordination. It's going to help you give more support to others, because you're going to be more mindful and thoughtful of your team. It's going to increase your emotional reserves. And that's a big one. When you think about your role and the environments that you're subjected to every day and what you do, having that little extra reserve, that little extra energy, that extra ability to cope is going to do so much for you as you move through your career, as you move through your year, your day-to-day. It's going to help you in all those aspects. Increased emotional connection to your organization. A lot of times we work with schools and educators of all different levels. Sometimes a negativity is starting to develop towards the school systems or the parents or the kids, unfortunately, sometimes. And having some more compassion, being more open, being authentic is going to allow you to be more there for your organization and look past some of the things that may be causing a negative stigma around your organization and maybe around the school or your staff, but really thinking like, how can I improve this situation by being more compassionate? Maybe that'll help me improve the situation and help me improve my perception of what's going on in my life. And then increase reporting of issues. As I mentioned earlier, as a leader, one of the things you do want to do is control what you can control or get ahead of future issues. Being a compassionate leader is going to bring people closer to you. It's going to have them open up. It's going to have the dialogues be more valuable, and it's going to allow you to identify problems earlier. So that's just something as being a leader. These are all very, very beneficial to your career, very, very beneficial to your peace of mind, and very beneficial to the amount of energy you need to do your job. Because if your team is working together as a collaborative team, as a compassionate team, everyone's chipping in, it's going to lighten the workload for everyone. And now Rachel's going to go into the 4 cornerstones of compassionate leadership. And these are some of your tools and ideas that you can use with yourself and that you can also use with your teams.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. So that was a great overview that Brandon just provided on understanding compassion and compassion in leadership specifically. So again, in this section, we will now just look at how we can get better at it, get better at practicing it in our daily lives, both as leaders, but also just as human beings as well. So there are a number of different models that have been developed to help us practice and operationalize compassion and compassionate leadership specifically. This model is adapted from the compassionate care team of Providence Health, and these 4 compassion cornerstones are all interrelated and apply both to individuals and teams. So you can see the 4 cornerstones are mindful pause, gratitude, finding meaning, and self-compassion. And these 4 cornerstones can help leaders find strength and resilience, can help you develop authenticity as a person and as a leader. These can also serve as practices that could be applied in both your personal and professional life. And these are also practices that you could also share with team members and bring to your teams. And you can see here at the center of this diagram, the goal is that stronger connection and improved well-being for yourself and then also for teams as a collective. So as we go through this section, I encourage you to just reflect upon which of these 4 cornerstones you're already using in your everyday practice, and then also think about which ones you may begin to incorporate into your practice and what that may look like for yourself and for the teams that you lead. So the first cornerstone is mindful pause. So again, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning. I led you through one of my own personal mindful pauses that I do, but these can be really helpful because they help us regain our inner strength. They can help us, pause for a moment and relieve stress and tension. So when you're starting to feel yourself getting stressed or anxious or tense, whatever the situation may be, taking a mindful pause can be super helpful. They can help us transition from one situation to the next, help us respond more effectively rather than kind of react negatively to a situation. They can also help us with reducing our unconscious biases, and they can help reduce feelings of burnout, which is, as I talked about earlier in this session, so important for our self-care. So on the next slide, let's look at how we might take mindful pauses in real time. So the first situation here is, say that you're experiencing a challenging situation, and this can be a number of things. It can be, dealing with a colleague. It could be in your personal life. Think about maybe a situation where you've responded quickly and then later you regretted something that you said or something that you did. You looked back at that situation and you wish that you reacted differently. Perhaps the actions that you did show didn't represent what you truly meant. Your words weren't representative of how you truly felt or how you wanted to relate to others. So think about if that situation has ever happened. So that's kind of what is being referred to here with a challenging situation. And one way that you could take a mindful pause in that situation, if it comes up in the future, is to take 3 deep breaths. So we did some breathing exercises in the beginning. And really, like I mentioned before, deep breathing is one of the quickest ways to activate our relaxation response and dampen our stress response. And when we breathe deeply, this can help us avoid reactive decision making and move forward with greater clarity and with a more thought out response. So it can be super helpful to take a mindful pause anytime that you are experiencing a challenging situation. Also, before beginning your workday, so you can just notice the sensations that you are experiencing in the here and in the right now. And that's really all what mindfulness is about. Mindfulness is all about doing one thing and one thing only, while being fully aware that you are doing that one thing. And when we practice mindfulness, we practice it non-judgmentally. So whatever you are experiencing is okay. You just name it, you recognize it, and that's it. And this can really help build calm before facing your workload or before facing your workday. And then you can also take mindful pauses at the end of the day or when you're leaving for the day. Think about things that might be taking up some of your mental space or head space that you cannot control, especially things that you can't control while you're away from work and you don't want to bring home with you. So when we let go of those things that we cannot control, it helps us reduce stress, avoid burnout, and rebuild our energy. So the three examples that you see in that middle column, those are all some examples of how you could take mindful pauses in different situations. And these can be applied to multiple situations that you may face throughout your day as well. And then the second cornerstone is practicing gratitude. And there is so much science and research about the benefits of practicing gratitude. Our brains actually have something that is a negativity bias, which can make negative events, thoughts, and emotions more noticeable and impactful than positive ones. And this kind of makes things seem worse than they really are. So to balance this tendency of our minds to emphasize on that negative, we ourselves need to accentuate the positive. And a great way to do this is through the reflective practice of gratitude. And I actually want to share a quote from Dr. Rick Hanson. He's a neuropsychologist, a wonderful meditation teacher, and he's done a lot of research on the science of happiness. And he says, gratitude, gladness, and related feelings like appreciation are easy to dismiss, but studies in fact show that cultivating them has lasting and important benefits, including lifting your mood, increasing satisfaction with life, and building resilience. So there are so many important benefits to practicing gratitude. And let's look at how we may practice it in real time. So when you start your day off, you can write down 2 to 3 things that you are grateful for. And this can just help start your day off on a positive note and trigger your brain to look for the positive and think positively throughout your day. I actually start every single day with gratitude journaling, and every single morning I'm writing at least 2 bullet points for things that I am grateful for. And it just helps me get into that positive mindset. And like you can see in the Y column here, just kind of start my day on a positive note. So it doesn't need to be something that you spend a ton of time doing. You can even do it right now. Just think of 1 to 2 things that you are grateful for now in this moment. And it can just be something that can be really beneficial as part of an everyday practice. During meetings, you can express gratitude for work that has gone well and create space for other people also to express gratitude for each other. This can help remind ourselves of all the goodness we do daily and also improve team unity and appreciation. On one of my teams, we actually have this thing that we do every single time we get together. As part of our round robin check-ins, people also do what's called team kudos. So we give kudos to other people on the team. We call out, moments when other people have helped us. We share appreciation for others, and who doesn't like to receive praise, right? So, you can get praise in return. People will share gratitude for you in return, and it just all around can make us feel really good about ourselves. And then finally, leaving for the day. You can call to mind 2 to 3 things that you are grateful for. And this also just helps end the workday on a positive note as well. So again, just right now, just think of 1 to 2 things that you are grateful for. Focus on the positive in your life, even through all challenging situations. Yes, we all have stressors. We all have some sort of suffering going on, but there are also positives in every single person's life and something that you can be grateful for. And calling that to mind can really be an important self-care strategy. The third cornerstone is finding meaning. So Brandon talked a little bit about this with finding purpose. It is so important to find meaning in our work and in our lives outside of work as well. It is important to remind yourself of your why. What is your purpose? What motivates you? What are your personal goals? You can explore ways to help make your workplace better, your home environment better, your own life better, and remind yourself also of the amazing impact that you are making on others in this life. When we lose meaning in our life, we tend to think and do without feeling. We might feel too busy, and then we also seek external validation. Whereas when we find meaning in our lives, we can get validation from ourselves, from within ourselves, from that purpose that we have. Brandon, could you click to show some? Yep. Oh, go back, please. Yeah, right there. Sorry. So when we find meaning, this helps us be aligned in our values and actions, balanced in our heart and mind, and also motivated by connection and sense of service, the bullets that you see here on this slide. And so what this might look like when we practice it in real time. So we can practice this in conversation. So remember something that is important to that person that you are speaking with. This can help notice outward connections between others that help us create meaning. In your work and personal life, before an activity, reflect on why you are spending time doing something. What is your intention? What is the purpose for engaging in a specific activity? And I would say that also can help you with the mindfulness component as well, and being present in that present moment. And this also helps connect inwardly to our purpose and heart. And every single day, you can just search out a moment of awe, and this helps to recognize with humility our overall place in the universe. So this is all about finding meaning. And then the final cornerstone is self-compassion. And I think this one is so important. As Brandon mentioned, we tend to give a lot to others, but not to ourselves, or we will extend grace to others and forgiveness for others. But we can be really, really hard on ourselves when we make a mistake and really dwell on that for so long. So self-compassion is really about extending compassion to oneself in instances of perceived inadequacy, failure, or just general suffering. We're all human, we all make mistakes and errors, and we are all deserving of grace. So there are three primary components of self-compassion, according to Kristen Neff, who's the main researcher of self-compassion. There's mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. So on this next slide, we'll look at some ways to practice self-compassion in real time that are aligned with those three pillars. So this first point here is aligned with mindfulness, the first component of self-compassion. So when you're feeling stressed, you can just notice and acknowledge your feelings without judgment. And this can help you to increase awareness of your own thoughts, your feelings, and your sensations, again, without judgment, but just with curiosity, just kind of, where is this feeling coming from, and just noticing it. The second point here is aligned with that second pillar of common humanity. So say that you make a mistake. Again, just remind yourself that you are human. We are all struggling in some way. Everyone makes errors. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone looks back on a situation and wishes that they maybe reacted differently. But reminding yourself that you are human helps recognize your humanity and that we are all imperfect. And this common humanity also makes all of us part of the same team, right? And then this the third row here is related to self-kindness. So say that you had a poor response to a challenge, you were more reactive than you wanted to be. Again, just remind yourself that you make mistakes, and then follow that up with a reflection question. Ask, what can I learn from this? And doing this can help practice self-kindness and stop your inner critic. So these are 4 strategies the 4 cornerstones of compassionate leadership. And all of these are related to your own self-care. And I wanted to show this diagram one more time and just kind of summarize that when we take mindful pauses, when we give gratitude, when we seek out and find meaning and find purpose in our life, and when we practice self-compassion, then at the center of that, we are also strengthening our connection with others, with our teams, and we're also improving the well-being of ourselves and the well-being of others. So super important to practice all 4 of these. I'm sure some of these cornerstones you all are already practicing now. You can just take a moment to reflect on the next slide really quickly, Brandon. Which of these you are excited to begin incorporating into your everyday practice? And like I said, I'm sure you all are already, using some of these components, using some of these 4 cornerstones in your daily practice already, both in your professional life and also your personal life. So which ones can you continue to do as well? And I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Brandon.
Thanks, Rachel. So we're getting close to the end here, and again, I appreciate your attention throughout this time. And one of the things I just wanted to highlight is really, again, appreciate that you joined us today, and that you are thinking about being a more compassionate person, that you're really focused on your, that you're thinking about your priorities, that you're taking some actionable next steps to improving your life, and of course, improving your ability to be effective around others, and to bring your best self to yourself, but also to others around you as well. And I think this quote is kind of just an interesting quote, and I think it does resonate really well when you think about how we got here and how you can be a compassionate leader, and how you should think about people that are around you. None of us got where we are solely by pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. We got here because somebody, a parent, a teacher, an Ivy League crony, or a few nuns bent down and helped us pick up our boots. We need help. And people around us need help. They need support. You have that ability, not only to give the support, which obviously you're doing by the profession that you chose, but also understand that you need help from other people as well. And you need to bring the best yourself to other people. It's really going to help you have a healthier and happier life. I can promise you I've been doing wellness forever, and I've heard lots of great stories. And when I first started, I did wellness coaching. And I can tell you, people that practice those 4 pillars that Rachel just went through drastically improve their perception of the world. They drastically improve their energy levels, and they really improve their social lives, the people around them, the relationships, their stress levels of what they experience. So I really urge you to take some of the concepts and ideas that Rachel shared with you, and really think about how you can put those into practice, not only with yourself, but potentially in a team meeting. The kudos is a great one to use. We use that one as well with my team, just kind of sharing some positivity. And then make sure you kind of understand that, again, these are all humans. You're human. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Things happen. But for us to take that breath, to take a step back, is really going to help you have a better relationship with your team, with the people around you, and just with yourself as well. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate your attention. I'm going to pass the ball back over to Ben to do a brief wrap up, and I think he's going to introduce and share the closing.
Thank you, Brandon. And thank you, Rachel and Brandon, for an insightful presentation. Thank you for the time you spent with us this evening. I also want to thank the audience and colleagues for your time. I hope you take away some valuable nuggets you can use. I know that I have certainly have. So before we end this evening, I would like to introduce the AFSA president, Dr. Lynn Pugliese, who knows the fight of education because he has been there, a former teacher, vice president, principal, the former president of the City Association of Supervisors and Administrators, CASA, AFASA, AFSA Local 20, Dr. Lynn Pugliese.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. And certainly thank you to Brandon and to Rachel for that presentation today, the rise resilience in school environments. I also thank all of you who have assisted in putting this webinar together, both here on part of the webinar and those behind the scenes who helped put it together. And I certainly thank all of you out there who took the time out of your busy schedules to take part in this first AFSA mental health webinar. And I also thank you sincerely for all the work you do each day as school leaders throughout the United States, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. As was highlighted today, taking care of ourselves, emotional well-being, and mental health should be the top priority in our lives. Often we get so caught up in helping others that we forget to give ourselves the attention and care we deserve. When we take care of ourselves, I believe we're best equipped to approach situations with a clear mind. So let's remember to take care of ourselves first so we can better take care of others. This is not being selfish by any means. It's actually necessary. And finally, I'd like to say there will be other AFSA webinars this month, both on mental health. We're going to do a more school-wide approach moving forward before the month is over for Mental Health Month. There will also be other webinars and other activities that AFSA will provide and resources moving forward. So I urge you all to check the AFSA website out for those pieces that are available to you. Pick out what you believe will best suit you for your particular needs. There's a variety of resources there. We're always available to answer your questions. And in the meantime, until the next time, let me say to all of you, be well and stay well. So thank you to all.